All right. Hi, acclaimed listeners and followers. Today, I have a really special guest with me. Her name is Natalia, and she's calling all the way from New York. And she has been a client of mine. She's been a customer in
Oh,
the acclaimed group coaching program, and she's here to tell you her story and the results that she's seen. So, Natalia, welcome. I'm super excited to have you here. So, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're here.
um, well, I think the best way to describe why I was here is actually in that first introduction little video that you had us do in the claimed group for the Facebook, where I said I kept meeting little bitches for men.
Yeah, I remember that.
Um, and not because I think ill of men, because I really don't. I never thought poorly of men. But I really struggled dating for like the last 9, 10 years, to be honest with you.
Mm.
I'm 30, so I'm not that old, but everything else in my life was coming together. Career, finances, life experiences, just a lot of the different gardens of life were starting to fill and come whole. But when it came to relationships, it was just this huge void of hurt and empty,
Mm.
and I was just trying to figure out what it was about me. And I never thought like there was no good men. I always thought, why wasn't I good enough to have a good man? So it was a very inflected version of a sob story of why can't I be enough? And
Mm.
I was on YouTube and I was looking up like self-esteem, how to date better, like video clips. And I've been doing like a lot of like personal development work. And then you popped up. And I think the title of the pod call or podcast interview that you did said femininity and masculinity. It was like the little thumbnail. And I read that and I'm like, that's kind of a weird topic. And my aunt, my tita Donna, Aunt Donna, she goes, you always need to start being more feminine with men. And when I read that, like femininity, masculinity, like her little voice popped in my head. So I clicked on the little YouTube thing and I just listened to your pod call or pod interview. And I just liked you, to be honest with you. I liked how you were spunky. You're very direct, but very fun. And I'm like, oh, this chick, I like her. She's cool. And then I really enjoyed what you were saying, to be honest with you. And it kind of like made me more interested. And I ended up watching the full like 50 minutes of your little interview. So
Mm.
that's how I kind of came across you and your program. And
Yeah,
then I
wow.
Googled you and started looking more.
Yeah, okay. So, just to summarize, you are meeting little bitches for men. And
Yes.
not that you disrespected men, but they were all little bitches running around. And you've kind of, built a life for yourself, and you were very stable and strong on many different aspects of your life. But something about relationships wasn't clicking, and you were struggling for many years to date, and in that aspect. And you said, there was a void of hurt and emptiness, and what was it about me? And why wasn't I good enough to meet good men? So that's kind of where your journey started. And so you watched the YouTube podcast. I don't even know what you're talking about, because I know, like, I think you're talking about some of the interviews that I did where I was interviewed by someone else and that was on YouTube.
Yes.
Okay. I don't even
Yeah.
know. I know there's like two or three. So that's really interesting that you found me that way, which is, yeah, it's a good sign though. So tell me more about that. So at the end of the interview, I guess you just started looking me up. And did you sign up for the webinar on how to attract your committed masculine man?
So you started talking about like polarity and like the
Mm-hmm.
dynamics of like what makes a woman and like just what that feminine essence was and how there's always like this dance. And I kind of started looking at myself a little bit differently and I started thinking about what my aunt would say to me, She would say, you need to let guys help you. And she would say, you have this awesome business, you make fantastic money, but you scare guys away. And it was really interesting having you talk about these topics that I was struggling with in that little interview. And so then I tried finding more of you, and I really couldn't. There wasn't that many. And then that led me to your webinar.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to the webinar, and I was like, okay, this is kind of interesting. I don't know if I buy this shit. And I was like, this is kind of weird.
All right.
um, but you had the discovery call, and it was Becca, I think was my first one. And I was like, whatever, it's free. Okay, come on, Natalie. Like, you've done stupid shit before. What's the big deal?
Right.
And I did it. And just talking to Becca was awesome. And it was really eye opening, and it was actually like soothing, and it felt right. And I was debating on going back to therapy, because I had some really shitty relationships, and just therapy was awesome because it was a place to just figure shit out. And so Becca said how much your program was, and I was like, hang on, let me get a calculator. So like I did the math, and I was like, well, if I did 2 therapy sessions a week for 10 weeks, it comes out to the exact same amount. I'm like, well, I did therapy once. Why not try something new? So I was like, fuck it, I'll do it.
Yeah, wow. I love how precise you are about this. Wow, yeah, awesome. So tell me more about that discovery call, Natalie. And for everybody listening, I now have a team of women who take these discovery calls. So it's not me, but it's someone else, which doesn't make a difference because, as you see, Natalia had an awesome call. So when you say, I had an awesome call with Becca, it was soothing. I felt great. Tell me more about what happened on that call and what motivated you to actually enroll in the program, if you remember, of course.
Oh no, I definitely remember. I
Yeah.
mean, I even grabbed a calculator to like confirm on a logical level, right?
Right.
Like the motion was there, but I needed some logic to back it up.
Yeah.
um, well, so I did therapy once in my early 20s, after a very just unhealthy relationship, and I wasn't innocent by any means looking back on that relationship, but it was very toxic. And so I went through therapy once, and it was amazing, leaps and bounds, right? But there was something internal that it didn't solve, or did not give me tools to figure out and solve. And when I was with Becca, and she kind of like had me close my eyes and kind of like bring about this like internal feeling when she had me drop in and kind of
Mm-hmm.
walk me through that process that you take your clients, us, through. But when she had me sit there and drop in, and I was able to speak from a place from within rather than a very structured setting, and speak from a place of logic and this event happened, this is what happened because of that event. I just felt different. So when Becca had me drop in and really kind of triggered this pit in my stomach that was really empty and always stirring, that I didn't know, um, it was kind of like, oh wow, that was in there. It was very insightful for me. It was like this layer of awareness I've been trying to figure out, but I couldn't. I didn't know how to. And I do a lot of yoga. In my college years, I used to teach yoga. So yoga was a very big part of my life, but still there was something like internal I could never connect to. And I can't understand why, even till this day. But the second Becca like sat with me and walked me through just this process of exploring inside, I felt better. And I was like, oh my gosh, that feeling of hurt is still there. Like I didn't even know this pain was inside me. Like I've been doing all these great things almost to keep busy and distract myself. Business is amazing, especially when you own your own business, because it keeps you so distracted. Like,
Mm-hmm. Tell me
you
about it.
don't
Yeah.
you don't have a second to like feel sometimes, because there's these other gratifications that are occurring. So like that internal pain sometimes gets numbed out, and I didn't realize it was there. It's still been there. That was the stir for these last 10 years that I've been trying to figure out. And I felt closer to understanding it in my discovery call with Becca. And then I grabbed the calculator and then I signed up.
And then you sign up on the call. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's something inside that kind of got touched, that, very kind of tender place that for you was something new, that you haven't experienced, and it might have been, the point of connection for you. And so from here, my question is to you, Natalia,
Either one is fine.
is like, there's so many women listening to this, and a lot of them perhaps have been on a discovery call. And there's a lot of women who do sign up for the program, and some of them do not sign up. So what do you feel like made you really go for it? Invest in yourself, say yes, sign up on the call, and jump into this experience.
Maybe perfectly transparent. Had I came across you maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I probably wouldn't have done it.
Mm-hmm.
The last 2-3 years, I've honestly been working on just my self-awareness and self-development, and I was already on this path of trying to understand like myself better. I wanted to start a career where I could experience life and not be subjected to it and have to go in and work and go home and just kind of be miserable, So I started taking these steps to really figure out how to live a more fulfilled life. And I think the fact that I was already kind of going in that direction, this was like this missing link I've been waiting for. It just resonated with me. It was like that X factor. It was this thing of self-awareness that I could not tap into because I wanted to understand my internal far more than what I did. Because the external, my goals, doing risky stuff, doing adventurous stuff, like the thrill of life, like I loved, but the thrill of who I am, I had no idea. And that's what that kind of sparked for me.
Mm-hmm. So let's dive into what happened next. Have you discovered the thrill of who you are? And tell me about that journey and maybe your biggest aha moments. You've had quite a journey in the program, Natalie.
Oh my gosh, I had so many aha moments. Like I feel like a little kid learning how to walk. Let's see, I think I've been in your program like 11 weeks now, maybe 12.
Mm-hmm.
And I went slow with it. I know you have a 10 week program with 5 modules, two weeks per module, but this was like very intense for me. Like I really wanted to go through this slow and really understand myself because these tools were amazing for me. Mm-hmm. And I just started module 5, and being week 11, 12, module 5, beginning that, I can honestly say I really love myself. I couldn't say that when I started this program. And that was worth every dollar and double the amount. Because one thing I remembered was a boyfriend that I really cared about, and he broke up with me. And one thing he said when I was younger was, how can I love you if you can't even love yourself? Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking he was full of shit. Like, fuck this guy, like I love myself. I know who I am. Totally didn't, and now I think I'm a fucking blast. Like, I want to hang around me. I think you should hang around me.
I think so too. I am hanging around you. That's why you're here.
And I just changed. Like, and it wasn't like I changed into something that I was not. I changed into more of who I always was, but was scared to be or didn't know how to. Like, I hated being female. And I didn't know that. That was my biggest aha moment. Module 2 with how do you phrase module 2?
Facing the shadow.
Yeah.
Limiting beliefs. Yeah.
I didn't know I was ashamed for being a woman because of how I grew up and just bad habits and being around the wrong type of men that I gave the power to. That's on me. And it wasn't that men are terrible. I just was around the wrong people. And growing up with a father or brother, that I can't control, but that was ingrained in me in certain aspects with how I grew up. And I think right now, when you talk about masculinity, like the toxic masculine man, like boys are ashamed of being boys. I was ashamed to be female because I associated women as the Achilles heel to all men. Um, our beauty is evil. I mean, the story of Adam and Eve is the essence of how bad a woman is, right? We cause trouble. My brother and his relationships and seeing how he treated his girlfriends, and he's 8 years older than me, really made me want to walk with my eyes down and never make eye contact with any man, you know? So breaking that and understanding that story and labeling it and, really facing it was very big for me. It gave me closure to actually let it go. And I didn't even know that story existed. I never had a tool to even discover that hate towards being a woman. And I feel so terrible saying that because I don't think all women are bad either. I just felt ashamed for being one. Man, even wearing more fitted clothing, like having my breasts have their curvature, like I would have, I hated that. I hated the fact that that was something guys looked at, it made me feel ashamed. And I can't, I don't know, I can't put words to other than the fact that it really messed with me and I didn't understand it. So I was attracting these guys that didn't really care, that were uncommitted, that were the bad boys because they were fun and thrilling, but really didn't care about me. And I was proving myself, the more independent I was, that meant the less they had to be inconvenienced by helping me, right? So if I was more independent, I wasn't a problem for them, so they can just like me. And it never worked out that way. And it was like the more money I made, the less they would have to care about me, right? Like cater to me or be there for me because I provided a significant amount of money. And it always worked against me. And it was always the wrong guy. And it's not that men are bad. I just was always attracting the wrong men because of my own psyche that I was unaware of.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, some deep shit.
Some deep shit in there. And so tell me about, so you said, oh my gosh, there's so many great things you said, I really love myself now. I'm a fucking blast. I love to hang out with myself. And so how does that feel? The question is like, what has changed within you? And obviously, what does this have to do with men that you're attracting and in relationships? So are you now understanding what your boyfriend told you about how can I love you if you don't love yourself? Like, how has that changed?
I wish I knew his number because I'd give him a call.
Well, maybe he'll listen to this podcast and call you up and find you and be like, Natalia, this is me.
Where have you been my last 10 years of my life?
That's right.
So rephrase the question again. I'm sorry.
So let me ask you the first question. How does it feel now? Because you said, there was hurt, there was pain, there was a void, and you were into the thrill of life that was all external, but the internal thrill of who you are just wasn't there because you were numbing yourself out, you were distracting. And so now you say, I'm a fucking blast. I love to hang out with myself and I really love myself. How does that feel? How is that different to what you've been experienced before on like a day-to-day basis?
It feels good. And it's not a fake kind of good. It's like a hearty laugh from the soul kind of good. Like before I used to wake up in the morning and I would get mad brushing my teeth, like of everything I did wrong that I could do better, right? And then now, like, I wake up in the morning brushing my teeth like, oh, fuck yeah, we're going to get this contract today. I'm totally going to get that date that I want to go on with that one guy I think is kind of cute. Like it's like a different thought process, It's less heavy and more free. in the Facebook group, I use the analogy of feeling like I was this cage animal, this cage bird, and the cage was too small, you know? Like I felt so constricted every single day without knowing why. Now I just feel so like airy. And it's not in a cocky way. You know, I don't walk in a room and be like, bitches, I'm here. Like I walk in a room and I feel good about the fact that I take up space and I'm not apologetic for it. And if someone notices me, then I let them notice me. And if they don't notice me, I don't really give a shit because they should notice me. Like, you know, and just having that type of fun in every interaction, whether it's at work or with family. My family dynamics has gotten better with my father and my brother. There's it's just changed, you know. Walking to the grocery store, like now I walk with my head up and I'm like, I wonder who's looking, or I wonder who I should look at. You know, it's just a lot more free, and it feels liberating. Um, and it's just like this breath of fresh air I've been trying to figure out how to take for such a long time. Um, and that feels good, you know, the ability to breathe. It feels good.
Yeah, wow, so beautiful. What you're describing. I mean, thanks for sharing that with me because that has been my experience and it still is my experience. And I was so passionate about, putting a process and a program together for women like you who can also experience that and, get over or get through or break through their own limitations because it's all within us. So and I love that metaphor. I was a caged animal, and the cage was too small. You know, it's not even that you were just a caged animal, but the cage was even too small. You know, you could have been a caged animal. The cage was big enough, but for you, it's such an amazing metaphor. And just watching you go through this process, Natalia, was amazing because I remember our first coaching call when you came up and you were like, what is this stupid shit that I have to do? Like this feminine flow thing? Like what? And this is pretty common for women who have always been in their head, who are into like masculine sports a lot before. I know you were playing, was it soccer professionally? Yeah. So yeah, it was really interesting. And then just seeing you kind of, unfold and unravel in that way. And like just reading your posts in the Facebook group, just how you were literally like blooming and blossoming and how you were documenting your journey as you go through it. And I'm going to talk about some of those stories and examples that you've experienced. So let's talk about men now, because obviously, Claimed is all about helping single successful women attract committed masculine men, or CMMs, how we call them in the program, but also for women in relationships who are looking to change that dynamic. So what are you seeing now? And maybe you can tell us a couple of stories and examples of, how your interactions with men transformed and changed.
It's so much different. The concept. So this is the biggest thing, when I was like, oh my gosh, you want me to get on my hands and knees and do what? Why? Like, I didn't know how to move my body without a definitive reason. Like, soccer for me was amazing because it gave me this group of women to bond to and have such strong relationships with. The negative side was I only knew how to move and do things for an objective reason. I didn't know how to just be. I didn't know how to fill space just to fill space. I knew how to fill space to get a job done. I knew how to fill space or study because that was the objective for the day. But to just have a presence for just what I was and who I am and be comfortable in my own skin never even occurred to me. That was the biggest aha moment, was I was not comfortable in my own skin. And it took me a second to get through feminine flow and really like trusting it and getting through how uncomfortable it made me. It wasn't just weird. It was just uncomfortable. Like it was both.
Yeah.
And then once I started figuring out and getting more like comfortable with myself, I started attracting guys. Like guys would look at me in the grocery store, and then I noticed they'd like be lingering at the same item on the shelf for like a minute too long. And I'm just like, is he fucking retarded? And then I'm like, oh, that was weird. And he ended up like saying hi to me. I'm like, oh, that doesn't happen. You know, I think I posted on in the group. I took my car to the mechanic down the street, and I wore lipstick. I wore like my more fitted clothing, and I never do that because I always felt uncomfortable. I didn't want the attention, and it was getting to the point where I just wanted to be and not care. Like I'm like, screw it. I love this outfit. I love this lipstick. And I'm at this the mechanic place I go to, and the one guy, he comes out and he's like, hey, I was the one that took care of your car. And I was like, thank you. He's like, make sure, next time you come, make sure that you tell them, that I get it or that he gets it. He gets my car to fix. I'm like, I will. He's like, all right, awesome. I'll see you around, And like, I didn't realize he was fixing my car the entire time for the last 2 years. He's never said anything to me. I didn't know he was going out of his way to make sure he got my car. Like,
Right. Yeah.
and I was like, holy shit, that doesn't happen. Like, what's going on? I smiled back and I flirted back. Usually I would blush and put my head down, and I didn't do that. I didn't want to. I wanted him to know I liked it.
Mm.
And then a friend of mine who I've known for 2-3 years, he's a builder, and I asked him to fix one of my fans. And he ended up telling me he's had a crush on me for the last 3 years. Like the day after I started getting comfortable with feminine flow. And I was like, no fucking way. He had a crush on me this entire time. He likes my ass. I think I even posted that screenshot of him saying he liked my ass.
Yeah, like you
really?
you always had a great ass. Yeah.
I was like, where the hell was this 3 years ago? Like my ass hasn't changed.
Right. Yeah.
But it was different because now I was more approachable. I feel like that freedom, that energy, that I just want to exist made men want to exist in front of me. And it's fun, it's very freeing. And it's not even about being pretty, ugly, fat, thin, athletic. It's just an energy you give off. And it's people being receptive to it and giving back what you're putting out there. It's a different form of law of attraction, in my opinion. You know more than me, but that's how it's starting to make sense, and I'm starting to get it now. So
yeah. Well, thank you for those stories. They're like, I'm loving your screenshots and what you're sharing. Because that's what it is. Like yesterday, I don't know if you saw Alana's post in the Facebook group, that video where she was sharing. Have you seen that?
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. I was sitting there how she was playing that recording. And we heard, obviously this is all confidential, but and I was looking at Alana, and this is what I'm seeing in so many women who are joining the program. And she was just like, holy moly, like, has this always been the case? Like, what have I been missing? Have I been living under a rock all these like 10 years, like, but for me, and I've just been sitting there and I'm like, to me, this is so obvious, this is so simple, really. Like this whole polarity thing and this whole relationships thing, it's really easy when you get it, and the power that you have as a woman and how much fun you can have in that dynamic, where it doesn't have to be this like super complicated scenario. You're always in your head and like, no, that's not the way to go about this. But when you get it, as you have been describing, it's like, oh my God, I've just been, yeah, you're right. Like that fan guy, he probably your ass probably hasn't changed much. Maybe you've been exercising a little bit here and there, or, but like drastically hasn't changed. And now you only hear it, you know, and that's what happens when you change your energy, get into your body, you know, uncover those stories that were always in your head and in your system, that belief system about who women are, who men are, and rewriting those narratives of what relationships are and how all of this works. Because I mean, we live in a society, like, it's just layers and layers of piled up shit on all the women, you know, especially once you get to your level, Natalia, where you're like making the money. I mean, obviously you had a journey, and that journey has been, you know, entangled with layers and beliefs and men and media and Netflix and the Me Too movement and all that. So it's like, you know, pushing the restart button. And then when that happens, you're just starting to notice and giving men chances and opportunities. And as you said, you are approachable. Because before, it's like not approachable. And I always say, you know, women are cog blocking themselves from everything they want and from the men they want. Like, I live in a world where men are freaking, like, when I listened to Alana's video, I was like, oh, I got a little hot and excited down there. I'm like, oh, that Australian accent, you know, because she's dating this. And I remembered, like, my husband is Aussie, and so, oh my gosh, like, how much fun I was having with men. And that's what it's all about. Instead of, like, you're getting into your head and planning everything and then, like, complaining, and all of that is just riding that wave of insecurity, of being totally in your masculine energy in your head, not knowing yourself. But when you're just in it, everything comes out. Your love for fashion and your love for mascara and, you know, lipstick, and everything changes. So you're no longer in the cage. The cage isn't, it's not that the cage isn't small anymore. It's also, you're not even in the cage, because you know, you've taken radical responsibility, what we've talked about, and you just see the world through a completely different lens, and like full of opportunity and possibility when it comes to being a woman.
Well, you know, it's weird. So that cage, or being in the cage and being too small, I created the small cage, and I always had the stupid key the entire fucking time, you know, like, and that was the concept. I think it kind of is mind blowing, is people don't realize we control that, you know, like, there was the biggest aha moment, and this, you might roll your eyes at me, but I remember on the call that we did, the group call, you had me approach a situation the way I approach my business contracts. And when you walked me through it that way, I got off the call and I was just like, I am so free and excited and very, like, curious when it comes to my business, that I treat men the complete opposite. It's always a head game. Like, I can't cultivate men the way I can cultivate the success in my business, because I'm so free and excited with my business. Like, nothing's a problem. If shit goes bad, I let it go. It wasn't right for me. I move on. I go to the contracts that want me because I want them. Men, I chase the guy that's like 5 miles down the road running the opposite direction. And I'm like, why don't you like me?
So have you got to the bottom of that? Why that? I remember the call that we did. Yeah.
Yeah, I just believe that I always had to prove myself, that chase, that unhealthiness was actually love. You know, that's all I knew. That's how I grew up learning when it came to relationships. You know, when it came to success in business, I had great sports mentors. I had great teachers that taught me those aspects of life. You know, reaching goal and having fun with it and saying, screw it, go all in, and discovering what can unfold is beautiful. Being fluid with that, to me, is actually very feminine, even though it's in a masculine area. Like, to be very like, let's find out. If I have to go left, we'll go left. But I think we're going to go right because I have a gut feeling, and you end up going right, you know? But men, it was just, I was taught such a different way. That's the only thing I really knew. And this program kind of took me outside of myself and made me from the outside looking in, rather than always being in my head. It is as simple as the concepts were. I was doing them in my business. but I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know to apply them with men.
Right.
That freedom was non-existent with men. That ability to just be and enjoy the moment and be present wasn't there with men. It was always a head game. And
Mm-hmm.
your program teaches that. It's like, hang on there, take a step back and like, look what you're doing at yourself. Become more self-aware. And that self-awareness is how I started evolving. I didn't change, I just evolved, you know?
Mm.
And that's when things started happening for me.
Yeah.
It was enlightenment. It was self-enlightenment. That's the best way I can describe it.
Oh, I love this so much. Oh, Natalia. All right, last question for you because I think I'm just, I'm in awe of you taking this process, making it your own, and really seeing the transformation in you. And I'm just so grateful. I'm grateful that you said yes, and yeah, and our so is, and you were such a great example of a woman who, like, I love your story, and I love your story because you're not a typical woman who kind of is like has been studying feminine energy for a long time, for example, or has been like ultra spiritual or whatever. Like you have a tomboy in you that is still there, and you're not like toning it down or trying to go away from it, which I think is one of the biggest fears that women have who are running businesses or careers and have this activated masculine energy in them. Like the business stuff that you're describing, that is masculine energy in the sense where it's like, screw it, let's do it, Richard Branson, like whatever, take away my virginity. It's like, I'm ready to play. Well, when it comes to like business, but when it comes to relationships and men, that's such an intimate, that's why women always, the issues like, well, I ticked all the boxes. What's up with, with my romantic dynamics? I don't understand. What am I doing wrong? Well, that's because you're approaching it the same way from the same kind of. But in your situation, it's different because in business you aren't playing, but something with the men and your dynamics with men, which my sense is that why successful women have a problem with it. First of all, because they're too much in their masculine energy. They are not connected to their own feminine energy and their femininity and their body and the cycles and stuff like that. But it's also because our dynamics with men and dating is such an intimate part, like of who, that those dynamics tend to uncover such deep, raw, vulnerable parts of ourselves that we do not, a lot of the times we don't have the tools to look at or to deal with, and so we end up chasing this guy who never liked us in the first place, or attracting these little bitches who like, I'm just comfortable being the man here, but I'm not really happy. And so
Yeah.
to attract a true, a great committed masculine man, you need to crack yourself open, and be and risk in a way, and be ready to let go of control and sit in the uncertainty. Is he going to call? Is he not going to call? I don't even care because I'm amazing and I'm a fucking, what did you say? I'm a
I think
fucking
that,
blast,
yeah.
And it's like, he's going to lose if he's not in my company. And so to build a relationship that's solid and long term, that is what's needed from a
Yeah.
woman, to be completely open to great love, which also opens you up to hurt and failure. But because that is really scary for us, we don't know how to do it. We just don't go there. And yeah, that's why I say women are cog blocking themselves. So when you step on this journey, things are opening up for you. And I love that about you, Natalie, because you're now discovering that part of you that's always been there, but just has been kind of like covered in layers of everything else.
I let the stories define me, and I
Mm,
stayed in them, and just letting them go, unlocking my own cage. You know, I never I never thought I was Little Miss Independent where I don't need somebody. Actually, it's always been the opposite. Like,
mm,
I don't want to fucking fix my light. Like, I don't want to pay $2,000 just to fix the brick on the step. No, like I can. I don't want to. Like I want my boyfriend to do that, you know? Like I get exhausted from stuff, you know? Like I want to be taken care of, and not because I'm like a helpless person, but like I want someone to show whatever love language they have. I want them to show me how they love me, and then I had to learn how to change that, you know? I thought doing stuff and being forward and being assertive was good. Well, leaning back and like letting a guy step in and giving him those opportunities, like I didn't even think about.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing. And that in itself makes me approachable because they like doing it. Men are great. Like I think men are amazing, and I like looking at them, you know, like men are great. Like they're not bad. It's just sometimes there's bad people. And
Mm-hmm.
that's not a masculine feminine thing. That's just a person thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All
And
right, then. Let's round it up, Natalia. So, for all the women listening who perhaps have been in your shoes, right, before you started the program, struggling with dating, attracting little bitches, or attracting men who are like in their toxic masculinity, right? Like really struggling, are successful, but don't know what they're doing wrong. What would you tell them, and why would you recommend jumping on a discovery call and then enrolling into the program?
you know, I would tell them to definitely enroll in the program, to really consider it, but to take a big breath and really look at your internal before you start blaming all these external reasons why guys don't work out. You know, like if you're ready to take a look at yourself honestly, then this is the perfect program for you because you're learning about yourself. You know, how can a guy love you if you don't even know what you love about yourself? How can he value you if you don't even know what you value about yourself? How can he let you be what you want to be when you don't know what type of feminine woman you even want to be? If that wasn't even a consideration for you before, you know? So if you want more out of yourself and out of life, then this is a perfect tool to just understand your internal better and do it. Take the plunge.
Do it. Take the plunge. So for everybody listening, girlskill.com/apply is where you apply for your discovery call. And then the second step would be to book a call. And who knows, you might even be speaking with Becca or someone else on my team, but it doesn't really matter. And then enroll on the call, and then we'll see in the program. And Natalia, I'm sure you'll get messages from women be like, I listened to your interview and that's why I'm here. So thank you so much, Natalia. This has been a blast. I'm looking forward. The journey continues, as you know. So I'm looking
Every day.
forward to further supporting you in this and watching you just unravel and bloom and further transform.
Yeah, no, thank you for giving me permission to be myself, right? So I appreciate that a lot. I needed
Yeah.
it. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.